name is Cronick. I'm 64 and my heritage is my father was Portuguese and my mother was Welsh. Well, I was born in Grangetown, but I didn't know anything about that. I was brought up in the docks from a young child, and my first memory is my elder brother taking me to the nursery in West Bute Street. That's my first memory. As a young child, I don't really remember much about it. You know, it's difficult. I remember growing up in the docks, but it's all very vague. I was actually put into Ely Homes when I was 7 years of age, and I stayed there for a couple of years with my elder brother. My mother was having another child, and my stepfather got rid of us. The docks community was a wonderful place. It was just a wonderful place to be. And as a child, growing up, you know, when I say from sort of 10, 11, 12, it was an adventure playground. There was nothing better. You could go over the dock, you could sneak on the dock, you could play, and being small, you could get in anywhere. You know, we used to go into the old, the stables. They turned them into garages then, didn't they? But when they were there, we used to be able to get into them, especially down along the canal. And we used to swim in the canal. Oh, it was just fantastic. You know, especially when you look back on it. At the time, it was just normal. But when I moved away from there, and you see where how other people had, kids had grown up, then you could understand what you had. You know, my first school down the docks, Eleanor Street, was it was just fabulous. It was a fantastic school. It was. I remember the headmistress, Mrs. Grisham. She was very strict, but she was very fair. And we had one of the most wonderful rooms in that school as a nature room. And we had a huge turtle. There were bows and arrows that come from Cape Verde. There were fish arrows, snakes. There was all sorts. All the seamen used to bring them back, and somehow ended up in the school. It was fantastic. The dock, basically, and the bottom end of town, Mary Ann Street, Guildford Crescent, you know, the swimming pool. That's about it. That was my world until I left home and I went to Llanishen, and then you start going to other places, seeing other things, and you can compare your life with other people's as you get older. And I was grateful for living down the docks. There's no question about that, because of the people, the experience. Like I say, it was the greatest playground on earth. It's better than Disney World. You could do anything, go anywhere, just don't get caught. Oh yeah, one of my chores was pluck the chickens on a Sunday after the old man had killed them, and then clean. I'd have to make sure my room was done, and anything else I was basically told to do. You did it, you didn't argue. One of the main frightening ones was when I met my brother Paul, and we used to play around and nobody knew about it because we were sort of separated. Paul was with my father, I was with my mother. And we used to play on this place called the Sailors' Homes. It was an engineering thing, and my brother Paul fell through the roof. And he just missed the machinery. And it was my job then to go and run and get somebody. And that was very, very traumatic, especially when I had a hammer in for it. Yeah, go everywhere, do anything. They used to get planks. And we used to nail like fins on it. And we used to go from the bay over there to Penarth Point. Now, can you imagine your child doing that today? You'd have to be a lunatic. You had to be very, very respectful to anybody that was older than you, because it was no good coming in and saying, "Ma'am, Mrs. Jones just slapped me. Could you get another one? Because you must have done something." Now, as simple as that. Yes, it was a silly thing. A friend of mine and I, you know, the gas man, he parked his bike and there was a big load of pennies on it, so we decided we'd take them. Well, it was a silly thing to do, but anyway, we had a good idea for that. The police actually weren't called, but it was, you know, go and get it. Everybody knew we had it, go and get it. So we had to go and give it back, and then It was very humiliating, and didn't want to do it again. My teenage life was basically the best part of it was getting out of the house. Like a lot of my friends, I couldn't understand them because they used to say, "Oh, I got to get home. My dad's coming home," and I said, "You must be crazy. You want your father home?" I couldn't believe it, you know. So, like I say, if I'd call him the old man, if you like, but once he was in, I wanted to get out. You know, I didn't want to be around him because he was a very violent and spiteful, cruel person. Well, yes, Catholic. I was brought up basically as a Catholic. In my later life, I decided that I believe in God, definitely believe in God, but people try and force things onto you. I was actually an altar boy in land of St David's Cathedral. I learned the Mass in Latin. But there's too many things as you grow older, you just don't seem true, doesn't seem right. So I tried lots of religions. In the end, I just decided religion is not for me. I just believe and I do basically what a man 2,000 years ago was born, what he told you to do. Just be good, help others, never do anybody a bad turn, and that's it. Fantastic. I all sorts. I don't care if you're Chinese, Japanese, Indian, and some of my best friends are Jamaican and West Indian. You know, when I was young, excuse me, and when I first started work, I worked with a Jamaican chap, and he was one of the most funniest guys with a laugh, you know, a proper laugh. Oh, he was fantastic. I was always very shy, I'll be truthful with you, and my first girlfriend, if you like, was from Lanishon, and then, like I say, when I left home, that's where I went, but I couldn't stay there, so I ended up living rough for the first 2 months. Well, I'd left school at 15, and I had a part-time job. My part-time job finished on the Saturday, and I started full-time work on the Monday. And you save up, you know, only a couple of pennies. I think I was on less than £4 a week, and I managed to buy this motorbike. And I was 16, just over 16 then, and in Stewart Street you had the dock gates, and directly opposite was my street, South William Street. And the dock gates opened, I think it was 12 o'clock, and they literally poured across the road. And this guy had just showed me how to use the bike, but I'd never done it, and I dropped the clutch, accelerated, and I just went through them all, and my stepfather was there looking at me. So I thought, oh well, just keep going. And that's what I did. I kept going and never come back. And I had what I had on and about £2 in my pocket. And that was me. I went to Lanishon. I stayed with a friend for a while because they used to let me go in the house to wash, you know, and things like that. And sometimes they'd feed me. And that's where I met my best friend. I'm still in contact with him today. He lives in Cornwall. And, you know, he often comes down and sees me and I go up and see him. But his mum, first of all, that was another thing. Because I was from the docks and a bit dark, I was viewed with suspicion by most people in Lanishon. And Roger's, my friend's mother, was very, very suspicious of me. And it came about because I swapped motorbikes with him. And she was a little feisty lady, and she gave me what for. And I said, it's not a problem, Roger can have his bike back. And I don't know, we just seemed to, she started to like me, and then she'd say, go and get Terry and we'll feed him, you know. So she let me stay there for a while, but I'm an independent sort of guy, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be a burden to anybody, so I just done my own thing. I ended up with a little bed sit, and basically that was that. People were suspicious of me because they didn't know me. Once they got to know me, they realised I wasn't, you know, if you were from the docks, everybody used to think, oh God, he must be, you're either a thief or a, that's what they used to say to me, you know, you're a hard man. Well, I could look after myself, but I was never hard. I don't class, see what I class as hard is somebody that could fight you, batter you, kick you and all the rest of it, and then go away and not think any more of it. That's the difference between tough and hard, if you like. It's completely different. It's completely and utterly different. The respect that young people have got, or haven't got, for elder people. You know, I saw somebody over where I live throwing, literally a schoolgirl, just take the roll out and throw it on the floor. And I looked at it and I thought, it's pointless saying anything because all you do is get a load of mouth. But if you did that, or if I did that when I was 13 or 14, they'd say, pick it up. And you wouldn't argue, you'd pick it up. But there's no respect anymore. And there's no respect for the police, there's no respect for teachers. If they want to do it, they'll do it because they know they can get away with it. You know, they'll exclude them. So what? I don't see it anymore. I don't see community anymore because it's like where I live. I know my neighbours and I know a few people around me, but it's not a community anymore. The best community I ever lived in, like even Lanisham, when I moved there, that was a new experience for me. These were lovely houses. They had bathrooms, things like that. You know, they had 2 taps, one with hot and cold. You know, and but the community was completely different. There was nothing like the docks. The docks, everybody knew everybody. We didn't have a lock on the front door. If my friends wanted to call for me, same as me, I'd go, you push the door open and shout down a passage. That was life there. And if you nobody would break in your house. If they broke in, they'd leave you something because you had nothing. That's the difference with community. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody's business. So no trying to hide anything. So those days are gone, and I watched it go when they started knocking the docks down. Well, I live in Llanrumney, and I live close to the shops in Countisbury Avenue. And I've been living there now for about 12, 13 years. And I know most of the shopkeepers. And I knew some of the people that go into the shops. But apart from that, there's no community. You know, like I was in a shop the other day and I said, I'm sure I know you from somewhere. And I said, you from the docks? And she said, yes. She said, I'm from the Bay, which is Loudon Square area. You know, so we had a little chat. Which is great, but other than things like that, you know, you say good morning to somebody and you're walking along and they looks at you funny. I don't know much about it, but when my mother passed away, my brother inherited her house, the youngest brother, and even he said that he couldn't leave his door unlocked, or you know, his car had to be alarmed. Well, that's the difference, you know. What they did, they destroyed a community. When they pulled the docks down, they moved the docks people out to everywhere. They moved them to Ely, all over the place. Lanisham, Cabalva, right? And then when they built these new houses, they didn't move back in. Strangers moved back in. And it destroyed the community completely. Not really, no. Not really, no. It's only later in life that, like speaking to yourself, like even like Terence knows as much as I do, because he actually looks into it. You know, he's quite proud of his heritage. So, first job I ever had was in Wyndham Engineering, which was on Taff Embankment, and I wanted to be either an engineer or a welder or something. I didn't have any qualifications, you know, I didn't have nothing. So I got a job then, it was basically labouring. That's when I met that West Indian. He worked with him, he was fantastic. But I could see it wasn't going anywhere. So I left. Where'd I go then? I left there and then I went to Lanisham. And I started doing various jobs, working on building sites and that sort of thing. But I'd also applied to join the Navy, the Merchant Navy. And I had a telegram to say to go down to Bute Street, to the Estonian embassy, not embassy, the Estonian shipping company. And they gave me a ship. So I had to go to Grimsby to meet the ship. And I was expecting one of the great big liners, you know, like a shell boat or something like that. And it was this old tub about 5,000 ton. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to go on that, am I? Anyway, cut the long story short, we went from there to Jarrow to pick up coal. And then we went across the North Sea to Sweden. And this is November. Oh, the only time I wasn't frightened was when I was sick. I was sick as a dog. So we got to Sweden, then we went to Germany, and then I signed off in Germany. I couldn't take no more. I'm going to come home for Christmas. I've always loved music. I've always loved music. I remember having an old guitar when I was about 13, 14, and it was a Spanish guitar, and it was supposed to have nylon strings, but somebody had put metal strings on it. And Vic Parker was supposed to be going to teach me, and I went to pick up the guitar one day and it had pulled the bridge off, so that was the end of the guitar. But yeah, later in life, you know, I got in with a couple of boys that were, you know, some of them were quite good musicians, and I was only 16, 17, and I got into it that way. You know, first of all I started trying to learn to play the guitar, which I wasn't too bad at. You know, I won't say I can play, but I could strum a tune. And then I got into playing the drums. Because a friend of mine, Roger, he had the kit of drums. So, you know, I started learning there. So, I taught myself. So, then I ended up buying a set many years later and joining the band. Vic Parker was a very well-known coloured gentleman that could play guitar beautiful. I used to go into the Quebec. And everybody, you know, I was only a kid then, and you'd be hanging on the door listening to Vic playing. You know, brilliant guy. Okay, but that was later on in my life, after I'd had my 3 children. You know, because they were growing up, there was never a penny to spare. Everything had to go on them, and then later in life, you know, the truth is, I asked my youngest son wanted a kit of drums. I said no problem. So I bought him a kit of drums, and as kids are, they're very fickle. He ended up not playing them, so I converted my loft. I put him up there, and then I started practicing and learning again. And I was in a pub one night, and there were 3 other guys there. One was a bass player, one was a rhythm guitarist and singer, and the other guy played lead. And so they wanted to have a little set with the guy's equipment. So I said, I'll have a knock with you. So anyway, cut a long story short, that was it then. We formed a band between the 4 of us. Blues, rock and roll. I've got 7 grandchildren. My eldest boy, Mark, which is... actually, my wife was married before, so he was 3 years of age, so I brought him up since he was 3. And he got married, and he had his first daughter, Gemma, who's now 28, solicitor. She's done really well for herself. And then he has another girl, Jessica. Then he had another girl, Lauren. So they decided to call it quits. And anyway, their marriage broke down. So only about 6-7 years ago now, he got a new partner, and she's got 2 girls, and she fell pregnant, and there was, what are you going to do about this? This is silly. And the next thing you know, he's got a boy, Oakley, who basically today is the day we have him all day. So when I get back now, I'll be looking after him. Well, my eldest granddaughter, Gemma, going back in 1990, we'd saved up and we were going to Disney, Florida. And my wife said, we'll have to take Gemma with us, you know, it's a trip of a lifetime. So anyway, we did. And I was a little bit concerned because she was only about 7. I thought, you know, she'd be young. Anyway, I'm going to be honest with you, it was fantastic. She was wonderful company, and then every year we went somewhere, Gemma came with us, you know. Jessica, we took Jessica and Lauren, we'd taken them on holiday. And then my daughter, Renee, she was £1.15 born, Renee. Tiny, tiny thing. Didn't think she was going to survive. Anyway, she survived, and she got married, decided she didn't want to have children. She was married for 7 years, and then she decided they're going to have one child. So she had a daughter, Kaylee. And then she decided, oh, we'll have one more. This is a year later. Anyway, she had twins, 2 boys. I call them Ronnie and Reggie. They were terrible. They come in, and one would divert, and the other one go in the fridge for the chocolate. They were great. They're 16 now. They were 16 on Monday. And they're 2 big, huge fellas. And they're great. We took them to Spain, and they thoroughly enjoyed it. And every 5 minutes they used to see me, they used to say, oh, Cams, can we go back? I said, yeah, when we got enough money. Like I say, Mark was a child from my wife's first marriage, and I brought him up since he was 3. And what I did, it wasn't long after that, we had my daughter Renee, was a tiny thing. She was in incubator for 3 months. And as they were growing up, I always tried to treat not one different to the other, you know. And my son, he's my son, that's the end of it, you know. Like if he's talking to anybody, he says, oh, my old man. And even, like I say, he's 40, 48, 47. And when he comes down, when he go in, he gives me a hug. It's not a handshake. Hug. Give him a hug back. And my youngest son, Terence, we lost the child. He was 5.5 months old. We'd gone out for the Sunday. Come home, I put him in his cot. And I went up to check on him. And he was gone. That was the most terrible time of my life. And it took my wife and myself a long, long time to get over it. And then, you know, God gave us a gift. He gave us Terence. He's 33 now. And the other 2, they're not resentful of him, but they always says, he always gets this, and he always has that. Well, there's a reason, you know what I mean? I won't say he's spoiled, because he's not spoiled. He's a really, really caring, loving child. He's never been in trouble. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. All he does is sports. He's hoping just now to start his own business. And he doesn't care who's around. When he goes out, no matter how many of his friends there, he grabs me, gives me a kiss. Ta-ra, Pops. You know, so I got a fantastic relationship with my children. All of them, yeah. I always try and give my children, I hate the word kids anyway. I always try and give my children whatever I can. You know, if I haven't got it, you can't have it. Simple as that. And I'm not going to go into debt to give it to you. I always remember Terence he wanted a pair of those Air shoes when they first come out. I said, I'm not paying £70 for them. I could buy a car for that. So anyway, fair play to him. He saved up, and he bought them. And he'd worn them, and then my wife decides to put them in a washing machine, and he ruined them. So I had to go and buy him a pair then, didn't I? Well, I would never want to leave Cardiff and live anywhere else. You know, I like Cardiff. I suppose maybe it's because it's what you're used to. But I've never lived anywhere else. But I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I like Cardiff. The docks are completely different. Do you know, I cried when they started pulling the square down, Loudon Square. I don't really remember, Nick, the park, where they built those 2 flats. Well, the old man's, my grandmother, used to live on the corner house. The one next to the one they used for the doctors when they made Tiger Bay. Well, she lived there. That was a huge house. And I remember them moving to go down to Hodges Square. And then you see him start pulling it down. I cried. I cried to see him destroying it. Because they were beautiful houses. All right, they had cellars, attics. They were huge. But they were wonderful places. I'm treated fine. Or I believe so. You know, I've never, like I said, it was only when I was first went to Lannish and people were very, very suspect about me. They didn't know me. I was dark. And people said he's a dock boy. And instantly that gives you a bit of a stigma. But apart from that, I believe if I went to, we say, Saudi Arabia, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. You can't, if you've got a culture, that's fine. You can be who you are, but when you come out into the community, you have to enact yourself. If you don't do that, well, people will be suspect about you, and they start being resentful. Or you can do it, but I can't. It's like a Sikh doesn't have to wear a helmet. Well, I understand it's religious grounds, but you've got the choice: either ride a bike or don't. That's what I believe. It's the same as I couldn't go into a bank with a mask on, so why should somebody else? Not really, no. Not really, no. It's something like, I love cooking, and I love curries, I like fish dishes, but to actually say this is from Cape Verde, no. I'd like to. You have to give me a recipe book. It's nothing like it should be. They're not treated as they should be. My mother-in-law, I got on very well with her, extremely well, in fact. And again, when I first met my wife, I was disliked by my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. But as time went on, they accepted me, and both of them, I treated them with respect, and I got that back. I worked hard. I worked hard all my life, and they accepted me. And when my mother-in-law got in later in life, she got older. My wife's other children, sisters, and so on, wanted to put her in a home. Well, my wife wouldn't have it, and neither would I. So she came and she lived with us for the last 8 years of her life. And again, she was fine until a couple of weeks before she passed away. She'd get up and she'd dress herself, she'd put her shoes on. We used to have a stair lift for her, and I'd put her tablets out. But you treat them with respect. But that's not the case in most things. Like, there's an old lady that lives just down a couple of doors down from me. I was told yesterday it's possible she's passed away. Nobody said a dicky bird to us. She was quite a loner on her own, but she called to me, and my electric's gone off, Terry. I said, no problem. I go in and I'd sort it out, or something else would be wrong. I'd sort it out for her. And she was a little bit, what's the word? Tetsy, but you'd have thought that somebody, one of a family, would have notified us. But nobody said a dicky bird. Nobody, we're not even 100% certain. But we got a feeling, because there was, people in dark suits and so on coming out of a house, and now the house is locked up. So, but nobody said a thing. So that's, where's the community? Where's the respect for anybody? No. I've mostly worked in the building industry, and what they do basically is like, if you're skillful and you're honest and you're hardworking, you'll get on anyway. I've never had any problem. I've worked for quite some big companies, and once the contract's finished and they come back into Cardiff, I've had a letter from them or a phone call to ask me to go up there and would I like another job. I remember once I was out of work, so I walked around and I went on to when they were building a tax office, and I said, any jobs? And the fella said, and I happened to be, I had a jacket and trousers on. He said, no, nothing here. So I said, okay. I walked off, and he said, oh, hang on a minute. He said, can I have a look at your hands? I went, yeah. He said, oh, when do you want to start? Well, at one time I was told when I was young, there was virtually every nationality in the world that lived down there at some time or other. And you get to know, like, the Spanish lady. In the street I lived, there was the Spanish lady, there was like 3 or 4 Maltese people, there were Italians, there were people from India, Africa. That's all in my one street. So, you get to know these people, and they got different things. It's like when I used to walk past a Spanish lady's house, you'd see the little Spanish dolls and the lovely frilly curtains and everything. They were lovely people. They were all lovely people, but they all had their own different cultures. Like, there was a special friend of mine, Ahmed. He lived about 10 doors from me. You know, you go into his house, and the first thing that hit you was curry, which was great. You know, his mum would say, yes, please. Everybody would feed you. And you'd try all the different cultured foods. You know, fantastic. Tolerance, I suppose, because there's so many. Who are you going to pick on? You know what I mean? Like, if you're an African, you're going to pick on a Somali or the Indian. You know, there's too many. It just wouldn't work. And everybody is tolerant of everybody else. You know, they don't want you to be exactly the same as them. They're happy where they are. They're happy to do what they want to do. And as long as you're happy, it's like a Christian and a Muslim. Why does a Christian want to make a Muslim Christian, or the Muslim want? Do you know what I mean? Just leave be. You got yours, I got mine. And I think that was the tolerance down there. Everybody was happy with the way they were. I think it was because of the docks. You know, people would come in on a ship, and you may be coming from West Africa, something like that, and you know back home there's not a great deal. Let me try here. You know, so they might sign off and stay in Cardiff, and then, you know, get a job. Oh, this isn't bad. This is good. You know, so then when other ships come in, and he says, oh, I've been here now 12 months, 18 months, it's great, yeah? So I think that's what happened. You know, people sign off the ships. You know, they got a couple of bob in their pocket, and they're able to start something. Again, because everything is so diverse. You know, like Celts, the Irish, Scottish, the Welsh, even Cornish. You know, they come from Celts. So the only odd one out really is the English. And we all make a joke of it with the rugby, don't we? You know, it's the English against the Welsh, you know. And like I got English friends, and if Wales wins, I phones them up and laughs at them. You know, it's all fun. It's all a joke. Once it starts to get serious and you want to take it seriously, well, that's when you got to stop joking and leave things be. And then that's the difference of everybody rubbing together. You know, you want to take the mick out of me, that's not a problem. But if you can't take it, don't do it to me. I don't think it'll never come back to what it was. Never. But Cardiff is Cardiff. Cardiff is diverse, and I suppose it starts with the docks. And like I said, the docks people have moved out, and they, if you like, colonised all these other places, and their attitudes, I think, have been absorbed quite a lot by their new communities, if you like. So they're tolerant. Everybody's tolerant. I remember Lanishon, when I first went there, I don't think they'd seen a colour guy. The majority of them. You know, me, like I'm not too. But in the summer, when I'm out in the sun, I go nearly your colour. You know, people are looking at me and thinking, "Wow, who's that?" If you see, going back quite a long time ago, there was race riots, and there was up country, and they reckoned he was going to come to Cardiff, and I said it'll never happen. It'll never happen, and it didn't. It didn't, because there's too many people, and I mean too many people, that wouldn't. They wouldn't participate, and they'd be actively against it. You know, it's people I know, I've spoken to about it. You know, you do get the militant one every so often, but I think that the majority shout them down. I'm just familiar with it. It's like the docks now. I don't know my way around there. You know, they've done so much to it. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes it saddens me, but I know, like, if my mother was alive, she'd think it was a massive, wonderful thing, which it is. It's like the pier head. We used to go and swimming in there, and when they used to turn the paddle steamers round, we'd be swimming in the water and used to grab hold of the rope, and they used to be shouting terrible things at us. Because when the boat started to get tight, the rope would go up in the air, you know, and you let it go. But we used to dive in there, swim in there, and looking at it now, you just can't see it. You just can't see it. It's like my life down the docks when I was young. You know, I say young is from when I come out of the homes. It was great. You know, it was just a wonderful place to be, and it seems even better now, looking back, because you see other, you know, like I say, it was the world's greatest playground. Go anywhere, do anything, as long as you were in it on time. You know, I remember there was two brothers, Chico and Jerry Mabakwis, karate experts. Chico's a renowned judge now, and when I was a young boy, I got covered in mud. So Chico and Jerry took me home. They used to live at the top of South William Street and cleaned me up. And they always laugh about it when I see them, because when I got home, my mother gave me a hiding because I was cleaner then than when I went out. And that's the truth. Okay. It was actually okay, because, how can I put this? You'd have breakfast and it would be at 8 o'clock. Then you would have dinner and it would be at so-and-so o'clock, and it put you into a routine, whereas when I lived at home, you had breakfast whenever you could, and you'd eat when you could. It was never a shortage of food as such, but you were given, whatever you were given, you ate. You know, I've eaten cow's udder, chicken, you name it, I've eaten it. That's your dinner. It's not like the day, oh, I don't fancy that. That's your dinner. Yes, I've been to St Fagans. Funny enough, only about 3 months ago. The Docks Museum, I used to like it when the Maritime Museum was there. I used to love going down there, take talents. The others, no. But the one in the what's it called, the pilot's office? Not the
the Italian Fine Arts Centre.
Yeah, that's great. You know, been on there a couple of times. It's good. I'm not sure really, because it's if you want to go, you'll go. To make you go, I don't think you can. You know, you can advertise it and explain to people and let people know what is there. Yeah, I think that's about the only way to go.